You have all the questions memorized.
Well, I'm coming up with some off the top of my head. I have them all written
You're
down,
good.
but
Yeah, you're good. I was just curious about the profession. I have a master's in public administration and was working for the state, and then at that time the state was paying for education, and I liked the camaraderie of courses and developing the friendship, so I was always curious about social work and just started taking a few courses and just became more and more interested.
So I'm originally from Long Island. Don't hold that against me. Okay, so I went to SUNY Cobleskill for 2 years. Then I went to UAlbany for 2 years, got my bachelor's in psychology and sociology. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I went to the College of St. Rose, met with Sister Ann there, and we talked about school psychology or the guidance program there. I tried both for the first semester, and guidance and counseling was the right fit for me. From that point, my wife and I got married, moved to Clifton Park. I worked at Liberty Enterprises, a vocational center for under the ARC for Montgomery and Fulton counties, as a vocational counselor there for 2 years. Then my third year I went to Northville Central Schools. I was a guidance counselor there for a year, and I've been here for the last 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. It depends on the lens you're answering that from, but from a social work lens, I see our roles as more the same than different. I think we both do individual counseling. We both work with students that come to us. I get frustrated because school counselors want to limit our role, and I think our role is more similar to theirs. Like, I think we're able to do class lessons. I think we're able to consult with teams. I think we're able to take responsibility as students. The thing we don't do is the academic scheduling or have that part of the training, but the rest of it I think is all the same. But when you talk to the school counselors, they see our role as very different. They see our roles as being working with the most disabled students who have IEPs and 504s, and we're specifically on that. And anytime like there's a student need, they want to be the ones that the teachers go to. Whereas I think social workers are just as capable of handling all that stuff. So it gets frustrating. But that is sort of the way it's being perceived now in schools, which I don't think is fair because they never asked us what they felt like our role should be. And it gets confusing for kids and families.
yeah.
So we now have 2 social workers here. When you were here, we had 1. So they've increased that to 2, which they needed to do because we have more and more students in our community, and I just think overall in general that have mental health issues. And I think the fact that in society now, as opposed to maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, we are recognizing that mental illness is not just for adults. You know, there are a lot of young people who suffer from various mental illnesses. So our social workers here are different than guidance counselors in the respect that I probably have about 275 students, grades 9 through 12. I take a piece of the alphabet, so that's why I had the chunks. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we follow students through to graduation. I would say that we're kind of like a jack of all trades. We do a little bit of everything, from obviously academic to college to some mental health issues. Our social workers here, they probably have between 50 and 75 students each, but they see students on a more regular basis. So they might see a student every week or bi-weekly. Our special education population here, some of them have it built into their IEPs that social work service is part of it. Okay. We have a few regular ed students that will see our social workers on a regular basis. The social workers here are going to work with students pretty much on emotional issues or behavioral issues. They really don't do much academically, and they're a good community resource. So if a student becomes homeless or they've been abused in some way, they're connected with the other community organizations that can assist them. So that's sort of their role. Their role tends to be a little more intensive than ours, But I would say that what I like about guidance and counseling, we call them school counselors now,
Right.
not guidance
Right.
counselors. That's a fancier term. Is that if you make a connection with the student here, like I did with you and with other students, is that sometimes it's just a drop in from 9th grade to 10th grade to 11th grade,
Right.
12th grade. So that doesn't always happen with every student because we have 275.
Right.
Where with the social workers, it's more intense. And it may lead from one grade level to another grade level, or it may stop after a year.
Yeah.
So it's more intense.
Connection, like the need for connection with other kids, and anxiety is huge too. The stress of school, because of that connection is weaker.
Do you think social media has affected that?
Yeah.
And technology?
Yeah, there's definitely that. Yeah, that's another big one. Yeah, I think everything's more public. I'm not sure how different it was than before all that, but now it's just more public, and we have to kind of help kids deal with that. And I think sometimes it's more the overreaction to things kids write, as opposed to, because those things have been said generations of middle schoolers through the years, but now it's like written down. And then on top of that, like threats are treated so much more differently now.
I would say for students now, probably social media, honestly. Back in the day, prior to social media, I would say there was tons of gossip, but that's how you got information about somebody, and it was like fourth hand, Where now, because social media is so accessible, I mean, it happens right now. And again, the population that we're dealing with, they do not have the cognitive maturity or development to stop themselves from posting something or taking pictures of themselves that they shouldn't. They're so quick, and because they're used to instant gratification in some form in getting information or whatever the case may be. So social media really creates it's an issue. Oh, without question.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think kids and families are just more open to say, yeah, my kid's bipolar. We're 15, 20 years ago. My kid's not crazy.
Right, we
You
talk
know, that
a
was
lot
the
about
terminology.
that.
You know?
Right.
Oh, he's crazy. Or
People
there's-
are like ashamed.
Yes.
And a lot of.
I just think, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I would say that it's improved.
Yeah.
It's become more recognized. Yeah.
For me, the hardest thing, but this was the same 22 years ago, is just saying goodbye to the kids, because you get close to your clients. So that to me is the worst part, like and it's just part of the way it's set up. But in terms of the work, like the paperwork and all the accountability demands are so much more now, and the access with email, like you're always working, you're always on, and people want to hear right away. So I try very hard to do that, but used to be, and then the expectation that you're going to communicate with all these outside sources. So that's a huge, and then the expectation that you're going to write reports and do things to give people the services they need. A lot of that you don't get paid for. So that's harder. I definitely don't think it's brushed to the side, especially in Guilderland and most schools. When you walk in them now, they're very different places. We're all doing lockdown drills. We don't have that personal approach when you enter a school. Now we have bulletproof glass and locked doors. So I think it's definitely affected schools. But I think gun violence is everywhere in our society. It's not just schools, but it is, it's in schools too. So
As far as the violence element of it, we haven't had any in the building that's been brought by a student. I would say, though, that our students are definitely cognizant of what's occurred in public schools, and it has been a concern of students, like being in a safe building, right? And we as a school are very cognizant of that. They follow the rules with it. All right, we're in a lockdown drill, nobody in the hallway, get away from the door, shades drawn. So we've been very, I think, proactive in that respect. And kids, you'd be surprised, they're not joking around. They're not, there's a shooter coming, there's a shooter. They're not like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it happens, but they kind of get it. Like, hey, this is happening. If it happens in Texas and Florida and Colorado and California, it can happen here.
I don't feel burned out. I've been doing this a long time, and I have the long days and I work in the summer, but I get, if anything, it's just about trying not to do too much, that I still love it so much after, let's see, I got my degree in 1992, you believe that? You weren't even alive. So how many years is that? So I still love what I do, and even last night I went home feeling like a high from some of those group meetings. So I think it's like faith, hope, and love. I mean, like believing in your clients that they can do it, trying to give them hope, caring about your clients. It's just energizing for me. If anything, I think it's about trying not to do too much sometimes and trying to pare down the schedule. And then when you believe in your clients, they rise to the occasion. Yeah. And just enjoy them and have fun, especially kids. That's the best part about kids.
So I can retire in 5 years. And everybody asks me, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, do I look that old? You know what I mean? I could see myself doing this another 10 years. But I will say that the upside of this particular job, I'll tell you what I like about school counseling and what I don't. Okay. You can do as much or as little as you want in this job, and you still get paid the same amount of money, and they can't get rid of you, which is terrible to say. Okay. But what I like about this job is it's just the diversity in it. And the best occupation is schools because there's a beginning and an end. So if I have a shitty year, I can say to myself, okay, all right, August is coming, September, I got to do something different. Right. Change things around a little bit. So that's what I like about the setting and the job. And I like the diversity in this job and the school because we have a lot of different types of kids here. We have some really, really smart kids, really well behaved, and then we got some
Anitas.
No, Anita was perfectly fine. We got some bandits. We got some Anitas. So I like that, but I will say, I work out every morning, Monday through Friday. I play hoop. I'm really happy in my personal life. So those things definitely add on to this.
Right.
And I will say, what I don't do is I don't get involved in the minutia of the school and the policies that don't run correctly, in my opinion. I don't gossip, and because I've learned I over a period of time, I'm like, look, I know what are my triggers that turn me off about, my job or school.
Right.
And I try to stay away from them, as much as I can.
Become solution focused. No. It's not about the intervention, which isn't anything you hear in school, because all the training is the intervention in school, but the intervention is really only a small piece of what makes a difference for people. So just believe in yourself, believe in your relationship, believe that social work works and what we do works. We don't always see that, and we don't always understand the impact we have on people. So just believe in your clients that they're going to get better, and have hope in them and faith in them, and that they can do it, and try to focus on that. I think when you can figure out how to look at problems and be yourself, be positive about them, and help people develop resiliency, and help them develop their goals. So, and it's easier said than done, but just be with your client and believe in them that they can figure things out. It's not about giving them advice. Barry Lonick, who's still there, right? You don't know Barry Lonick? Oh, you have to take Barry Lonick and Robert Miller. You know Robert Miller. You don't know Robert Miller. All right, so those are two people you have to take.